October 2025, Rockhaven, Maine, shivers under a storm-charged sky as 6-year-old Lily Harper skips through the Seaside Market, her auburn braids dancing, oblivious to the shadow tied to a rusted post. Blitz, a German shepherd with haunted amber eyes, trembles, ribs jutting, fur matted, a fallen hero branded dangerous after a fire's lie. "Daddy, he's scared," Lily cries, stepping toward the Ex-K9 as Eddie Voss, a drunk with a fist full of rope, lurches in. Blitz stiffens, shielding her, teeth bared but silent, a soldier's last stand. The market holds its breath, and in one heartbeat, a little girl's courage ignites a war to reclaim a hero America forgot. Please hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's dive into the story together. October 2025 draped Rockhaven, Maine, in a shroud of autumn chill, the kind that bit through wool coats and left the cobblestone lanes of the Seaside Market slick with fallen leaves. The air thrummed with the pulse of a fading fishing town, salt and diesel mingling with the tang of apple cider wafting from weathered brick stalls. Smoke twisted upward from chimneys, curling into a sky streaked with gray, as the wind off the Atlantic carried whispers of a storm brewing out at sea. 6-year-old Lily Harper skipped alongside her parents, her auburn braids bouncing beneath a hand-knit cap her grandmother had made, her green eyes darting between vendors she'd known since she could toddle, Mr. Ellis with his bushels of crisp apples, Mrs. Kane kneading dough for her famous rye loaves. Saturday mornings at the market were her treasure hunts, a ritual stitched into the fabric of her small, fierce world. But today, as she clutched $1 for a cider donut, her gaze snagged on something else, a trembling shadow tethered to a rusted iron post near the fruit stand, a German shepherd named Blitz. His ribs jutting sharp against matted black and tan fur, his amber eyes clouded with a resignation that sliced through the market's chatter. Lily froze mid-step, her small hand tugging her father's sleeve with a force that belied her size. "Daddy, look, he's scared," she whispered, her voice barely a breath, pointing at the dog. Tom Harper, a fisherman built like the oak hulls he patched, his hands scarred from years of hauling lobster traps, squinted through the crowd, his brow furrowing as he clocked the animal. He'd heard the rumors, the hushed tales swapped over coffee at the docks. Blitz, the ex-police K9, cast out after some fire turned sour, now stuck with Eddie Voss, a drunk who'd sooner kick a dog than feed it. Claire Harper, Lily's mom, a nurse with a quiet strength honed from stitching up fishermen and soothing fevered kids, knelt beside her daughter, her hazel eyes softening but cautious. "Sweetie, he's not ours to fix," she said, brushing a braid from Lily's face. But Lily's heart didn't bend to warnings, it never had. She edged closer, crouching low on the damp stones, her voice a gentle hum over the wind. "Hi, I'm Lily. You don't gotta be afraid no more." Blitz lifted his head, ears twitching forward, his gaze locking onto hers with a flicker of something raw, hope, maybe, or recognition, that hadn't sparked in months. Around them, the market stilled, vendors pausing mid-sale, shoppers clutching bags, all eyes on a child and a dog, wary but riveted. Blitz wasn't just any stray. 5 years back, he'd been born at the Grayson K9 Academy in Vermont, a pup from a line bred for grit and grace, German shepherds with noses sharper than steel traps and hearts steady as granite. Officer Ryan Callahan, a Portland PD vet with a buzzcut and a soft spot for underdogs, had plucked him from the litter, struck by the way Blitz sat calm while his siblings scrapped, his amber eyes tracking every move with an old soul stillness. They'd bonded fast, a unit forged in sweat and trust, Ryan's whistle, Blitz's bark, a rhythm that saved lives. Blitz aced training in half the time, mastering over 60 commands, from sniffing out bombs to guiding flood survivors to shore. In 3 years, he racked up 52 rescues, kids lost in the Pinewood Hills, an old man pinned in a car wreck, a family pulled from a flooded trailer when the Kennebec River burst its banks. Rockhaven, 50 miles north, claimed him as their own. Schools cheered his demos, kids petting his sleek coat. Locals dubbing him Maine's Shield after he swam through a storm to save a toddler. His photo splashed across the Portland Press-Herald, a governor's medal gleaming on his collar. But 6 months ago, flames roared through Pinewood Elementary, and a split-second snapshot, Blitz's teeth on a third grader's coat, yanking her from a collapsing beam, twisted his tail. K9 attacks child in blaze, the headlines screamed, fear drowning the truth. Parents raged, the brass caved, and Blitz lost it all: badge, purpose, Ryan's faith. Now, he sat at the Seaside Market, tethered by a frayed rope to Eddie Voss's post, a fisherman whose temper flared hotter than his whiskey breath, who'd snagged Blitz from a shelter for cheap, lured by his pedigree. Blind to his pain. 6 months under Eddie's heel had dulled Blitz's coat to a patchy gray, thinned his frame until his ribs poked like driftwood, cracked the spirit that once lit up crowds. Mr. Ellis, the fruit vendor nearest the post, slipped him water when Eddie staggered off to the bar, but most gave him a wide berth, whispering "dangerous" as they hurried past, their eyes sliding away from his quiet suffering. Lily didn't see a threat, she saw a friend, a mirror to the loneliness she'd carried since her baby brother didn't make it home from the hospital 2 years back. "He's sad, Mommy," she said, fishing an apple from her coat pocket, its red skin gleaming. "Can I give it to him?" Claire hesitated, her nurse's instincts warring with her heart. But Tom nodded slow, something in Blitz's stillness easing the knot in his gut, a fisherman's read of a storm about to break. Lily held out the apple, palm flat like she'd seen in books. And Blitz took it with a gentleness that hushed the crowd, his lips barely brushing her skin. A tear slid down her cheek, catching the light. "Where's his family?" Eddie Voss lurched through the stalls then, boots scuffing, reeking of cheap liquor and stale sweat. "Back off my dog, kid," he slurred, yanking the rope hard enough to jerk Blitz's head. The dog flinched, stepping between Lily and Eddie. A silent wall despite the tremor in his legs, his training a ghost beneath the fear. Tom stepped up, voice low and steady as a tide. "Easy, Voss, he's not hurting anyone." Lily's plea cut sharper than the wind. "Don't hurt him, he's good." The market froze, Mr. Ellis gripping his crate, Mrs. Kane clutching her bread tray, Officer Dana Pierce, a lean cop with a buzz cut and a no-nonsense stare, weaving through with her radio crackling. "What's going on here?" Dana barked, hand on her belt. Eddie snarled, but Blitz stood firm, eyes locked on Lily, a spark reigniting in his amber depths. Claire pulled her phone, recording soft, her nurse's calm masking the fire building inside. The crowd held its breath, vendors, shoppers, a town teetering on the edge of something bigger. This wasn't over, it was the first wave crashing in. Rockhaven wasn't the thriving port it had been in Tom's granddad's day. Fishing quotas had shrunk the fleet, tourists drifted to flashier coasts, leaving a tight-knit 3,000 souls clinging to salt-crusted roots. The Harper's gray shingle cottage perched on the bluff above the harbor, nets drying in the yard like spiderwebs. Claire's herb garden a splash of green against the weathered boards. Inside, Lily's drawings plastered every wall, boats cresting waves, fish with cartoon grins, now a dog sketched in crayon, a cape fluttering behind him. Tom hauled cod and lobster, his hands steady from years wrestling the sea, while Claire patched up the town's cuts and fevers at the clinic, her quiet strength a balm to a community fraying at the edges. Lily was their anchor, their only child after 3 miscarriages and a stillbirth that left a silence they'd never shake. She'd come late, a miracle after grief, her empathy a gift that bloomed early, tears for a gull with a broken wing, a hug for a classmate who'd lost a pet. That Saturday, her heart latched onto Blitz, and nothing, not fear, not rumors, would pry it loose. Back at the cottage that night, Lily sat by the fire, sketching Blitz, his notched ear, his sad eyes, while Tom cleaned his gear, muttering, "That dog's seen hell, Claire." She nodded, flipping through a vet manual. "He's starving, body and soul. Eddie's killing him slow." Lily looked up, fierce. "We gotta save him, Daddy, he's like us, lost something big." Tom's throat tightened, her brother's ghost hovered in her words. Claire set the book down, soft. "It's not simple, Lil, he's got a past." But Lily's crayon didn't stop. "Past don't matter, he's good now." Outside, the wind howled, a storm gathering strength. And Tom felt it in his bones, trouble was coming, and his girl was already all in. By noon on that October day in 2025, Rockhaven Seaside Market pulsed under a sky turning bruise dark. The Atlantic's breath sharpening as storm clouds rolled in from the horizon. The cobblestones gleamed wet from a morning drizzle, the air thick with salt, cider, and a tension that crackled like static before a lightning strike. Lily Harper stood rooted near the fruit stand, her small hand gripping her mom's, her green eyes locked on Blitz, the German shepherd tethered to Eddie Voss's rusted post, his black and tan coat matted with neglect. His amber gaze steady despite the tremble in his legs after their earlier clash. Tom Harper loomed beside her, his fisherman's frame a bulwark against the chaos, his salt-roughened hands flexing as he stared down Eddie Voss. "Leave the kid alone, Voss, she's done no harm," he growled, voice low but carrying the weight of a man who'd faced storms bigger than this drunk. Eddie sneered, his bloodshot eyes glinting. Yanking Blitz's frayed rope with a jerk that made the dog stumble. "My dog, my rules, she's meddling where she don't belong." Blitz flinched but planted himself between Lily and Eddie. A silent shield, his training a flicker beneath the fear. Claire Harper filmed with steady hands, her nurse's calm masking the fury simmering inside, as Officer Dana Pierce pushed through the gathering crowd. Her radio spitting static. "Step back, Eddie, folks say you're starving him." "I'm hearing neglect," Dana said, her tone steel-edged. Lily's voice broke through, small but fierce as a gull's cry. "He's a hero, he saved people. I read it." She'd unearthed an old clipping from Tom's fishing logs the night before, Blitz pulling a girl from Pinewood Elementary's fire, not attacking. The truth buried under a blurry photo's lie. The market shifted, Mr. Ellis, wiry and gray, nodded slow from his apple crates, Mrs. Kane, stout and flour-dusted, clutched her bread tray tighter. Whispers rippled through the stalls, "She's right, heard that story too." Eddie's face twisted, his whiskey breath fogging the air. "Lies, that much trouble, always was." He raised a fist. The rope taut in his grip, but Blitz stood taller, shielding Lily, no growl, just a quiet dignity that stopped Eddie mid-swing. Dana's hand hit her holster, eyes narrowing. "Enough. Voss, animal control's on its way. You're done here." Eddie cursed, stumbling back as the crowd erupted in cheers, but Blitz swayed, his ribs stark under his fur, exhaustion dragging him down. Lily darted forward, heedless of Claire's gasp. "He needs us, he's gonna fall." Rockhaven had once sung Blitz's name. 5 years back, he'd rolled into Portland PD with Ryan Callahan. A K9 prodigy, sharp as a blade, steady as stone. 52 rescues in 3 years, floods swallowing trailers, fires chewing through homes, hikers lost in the Pinewood Hills, he'd been their rock. A German shepherd with a governor's medal pinned to his collar, kids chanting Maine's shield at school demos. Then Pinewood Elementary burned 6 months ago, and a reporter's flash caught Blitz mid-save, teeth on a girl's coat, yanking her from a falling beam. K9 Mall's child, the papers screamed, fear drowning Ryan's pleas, he saved her, look at the tape. Parents raged, the brass buckled, and Blitz was stripped of duty. Labeled, high risk. Ryan, torn between his badge and a newborn daughter, let him go, his last glimpse of Blitz a guilt-seared memory as Eddie Voss claimed him from a shelter. Lured by his bloodline, blind to his soul. 6 months of neglect followed, Blitz tied to that post, ribs poking through, spirit fracturing under Eddie's boots and bottles. Lily didn't swallow the rumors. Back home, she'd raided Tom's fishing logs, old newspapers stuffed in a tin box under the kitchen bench, piecing together Blitz's truth, flood rescues in 22, hospital visits calming sick kids. A dog who'd sat vigil with a dying fisherman after a wreck. "He's not bad, Daddy," she'd said, taping clippings to her bedroom wall, Blitz with a toddler on his back, a medal ceremony. A smile from Governor Mills. Now, as Animal Control's van rolled up, she planted herself beside Blitz, voice ringing. "We'll take him, he knows me already." Tom and Claire traded a look. Years of loss had taught them Lily's heart was a tide no dam could hold. Claire knelt, soft but firm. "It's big, Lil, he's hurt deep, scared too." Lily's answer was steel, her green eyes blazing. "Love's bigger, ain't it?" Dana nodded, sizing them up. "He needs a foster, someone who gets his past. You Harper's up for it?" Tom gripped Lily's shoulder, his fisherman's resolve locking in. We are. He's ours now." The cottage turned into Blitz's lifeline that afternoon as the storm brewed closer. Waves crashing louder against the bluff. Tom rigged a den off the kitchen, a high-sided bed from the shed, blankets Claire dug from the attic, a bowl of water by the hearth. Claire stocked vet supplies, bandages, antiseptic, a borrowed scale to track his weight, her nurse's hands itching to heal. Lily drew welcome signs in crayon, Blitz in a cape, soaring over waves, saving the day, taping them low so he'd see. When Animal Control brought him, groomed but frail, his shoulder bruised from Eddie's last yank, Lily sat back, humming a tune her grandma used to sing. "Hi, Blitz, you're home now," she said, soft as sea glass. He sniffed her hand, tail wagging once, a tentative beat, then collapsed into the bed, amber eyes fixed on her like she was his North Star. Claire watched. Her nurse's instincts humming, trauma carved deep, but trust sprouting like a weed through cracked stone. Tom muttered, polishing his flare gun, "He's a fighter, like us after the baby." Outside, rain lashed the windows, the nor'easter's first growl, but inside, a spark flickered, Lily and Blitz, two souls finding harbor. Eddie's rage festered across town, holed up in his clapboard shack by the docks. Whiskey bottle half empty, plotting with his brother Carl, a lobsterman with a failing kennel and a sharper eye for profit. "That dog's mine, bloodline's gold," Eddie slurred, slamming the table. Carl, lean and cold, smirked. "We'll get him back, court or not. Harpers don't know what's coming." But Rockhaven stirred, vendors swapped tales of Blitz's quiet endurance at the market. Mr. Ellis vowing over his apples, "That kid's right, he's no beast, just beat down." Mrs. Kane nodded, kneading dough. Seen him watch kids pass, never a snap, just sad. The storm wasn't just weather. It was truth breaking free, and Lily's stand had lit the match. Tom felt it that night, checking the cottage locks, flare gun on the shelf. Claire stitched a gash from a dockhand's hook at the clinic. Her mind on Blitz's ribs. Lily slept with her sketchbook open, Blitz flying, her brother's shadow in the clouds. The nor'easter howled, waves chewing the shore, and Blitz lifted his head. Ears pricking at a rumble too low for human ears, trouble rolling in with the tide. November 2025 slammed into Rockhaven, Maine, with a nor'easter that tore at the coast like a beast unchained. Winds howling at 70 miles an hour, waves crashing over the harbor's breakwater and flooding the lower streets. Rain lashed the Harper's cottage on the bluff, rattling the shingles and drumming against the windows with a ferocity that drowned out the world beyond. Inside, Lily Harper sat cross-legged on the pine floor beside Blitz's bed, her auburn braids damp from a dash to the shed, her green eyes tracing the German shepherd's slow, steady breaths. His coat gleamed now, black and tan polished by Claire's daily brushing, his ribs less stark under a thin layer of muscle, but his amber gaze still flickered with shadows, a wariness carved by months of Eddie Voss's neglect. Tom Harper stoked the fire in the stone hearth, his fisherman's hands restless, the crackle of logs a counterpoint to the storm's roar. Claire pored over a vet chart at the kitchen table, malnutrition easing. Weight up 5 pounds, but trauma lingered in his flinches at loud noises. He's healing, slow but sure, she said, tapping a pen against the paper. Still jumps at thunder, those months with Voss broke something deep. Lily reached out, her small hand hovering over Blitz's notched ear, whispering, "He's brave, Mommy, he just needs us to see it. Don't you, boy?" The fight for Blitz had swelled into a tempest of its own. Eddie Voss had lawyered up with his brother Carl, a slick lobsterman with a failing kennel down the coast, his eyes glinting with greed over Blitz's police bloodline. Days earlier, they'd cornered Tom at the market, Carl flashing fake papers under a drizzle-soaked awning. "That dog's stolen stock, worth thousands," Carl sneered, his voice smooth as oil over gravel. "You're outmatched, Harper." Tom's fists clenched, his bulk a wall between them and Lily, who clutched Blitz's leash tight, the dog pressing against her leg. "He's ours now, court says so." Tom growled, his fisherman's stare unyielding. Lily stepped forward, her voice cutting through the rain. "He's not for sale, he's family." The crowd, Mr. Ellis with his apple crates, Mrs. Kane with her bread baskets, even Officer Dana Pierce patrolling nearby, rallied, phones out, recording Eddie's slurred threats and Carl's cold grin. Dana stepped in, rain streaking her uniform. "Back off, Voss, evidence says neglect. You've got no claim." Carl's eyes narrowed, a plan brewing behind his calm, while Eddie spat, "We'll see about that." Blitz's past unfurled in Lily's hands like a map to buried treasure. She'd raided Tom's fishing logs, Claire's old nursing journals, even the library's microfiche, piecing together a hero's tale. 52 rescues, flood swallowing trailers in 22. A car wreck pinning an old man in 23, a kid's bike crash in the Pinewood Hills last spring. Blitz had been Rockhaven's rock, a German shepherd with a medal from Governor Mills. His photo with a toddler on his back framed in the town hall. Pinewood Elementary's fire flipped it all 6 months back, a blurry photo misconstrued, Ryan Callahan sidelined by brass. Blitz cast out as high risk. Eddie's abuse followed, kicks, starvation, a rope that rubbed his neck raw, but Lily saw the truth beneath. "He saved that girl, I know it," she'd told her class. Showing her timeline, Blitz with flood victims, hospital kids giggling as he nosed their hands, a governor's handshake under flashing bulbs. Her teacher, Mrs. Doyle, teared up, her glasses fogging. "You're right, Lil, truth's been hiding too long." The cottage had morphed into a war room, Tom filing reports with Dana, Claire tracking Blitz's recovery with vet calls. Lily drawing Blitz's story for court, her crayons mapping a hero's fall and rise. When Ryan Callahan visited, gray-haired and broken, Blitz wagged, torn between old loyalty and new love. "He was my soul," Ryan rasped, kneeling by the dog, his hands trembling. "That fire, I fought for him, but the brass wouldn't hear it. I failed him." Lily hugged him, fierce. "We'll fix it, you'll see." Ryan left a box, Blitz's medal, training logs, a photo of them grinning after a flood save. That night, a truck roared past the bluff, Carl's rig. Headlights slashing the rain, scouting. Blitz growled low, ears pinned, and Tom grabbed his flare gun from the shelf, checking the load. "They're coming, Claire, brace up. This ain't over." The storm peaked as Carl's scheme crashed in, fake papers claiming Blitz's lineage, a bid to sell him to a breeder upstate tied to fighting rings. Dana busted it wide open. Raiding Carl's kennel with a warrant, dogs scarred in cages, blood on concrete, a ledger listing Blitz as prime stock. "He's a monster," she told Tom, sliding photos across the kitchen table, emaciated pups. Fight scars, a cold plan to break Blitz's gentleness for profit. Lily overheard from the doorway, sobbing into Blitz's fur as he nosed her tears. "They can't take you, I won't let them." Tom knelt, his voice fierce as the sea. "They won't, Lil, we fight, all of us." Claire's hands shook, stitching a patient's chart shut. "This town's waking up, they'll stand with us." The market rallied, Mrs. Kane baked for fundraisers, her rye loaves sold out for Blitz's vet bills, Mr. Ellis gathered signatures, his apple crates a petition hub, Rockhaven stirring to Blitz's truth. A rally swelled at the town square, blue ribbons, Blitz's color, pinned to every stall, Lily's voice crackling over a borrowed megaphone, "He's our hero, help us keep him safe." Thunder roared, drowning her last words, but her heart roared louder, a beacon in the dark. Eddie and Carl huddled in their shack, the storm rattling the tin roof, plotting their next move. "That kid's trouble, whole town's turning." Eddie slurred, bottle tipping. Carl smirked, flipping a knife. "We don't need the town, just the dog. Legal or not, we'll take him." But Rockhaven's tide had shifted, vendors whispered over coffee. Fishermen nodded at the docks, Mrs. Doyle's class sent drawings to the judge, Blitz with a cape, saving kids. Dana's raid had cracked the Voss brothers' shell, and the storm wasn't just tearing at the coast, it was tearing down lies. Tom stood watch that night, flare gun by the door, the wind screaming through the bluff pines. Claire stitched a gash from a storm-tossed fisherman, her mind on Blitz's flinches, thunder like Eddie's boots. Lily curled by Blitz, her sketchbook open, Blitz flying over waves, her lost brother riding his back, a family whole again. The nor'easter raged, but inside, resolve hardened, Lily's fight. Blitz's trust, a town rising like the tide. April 2026 broke over Rockhaven, Maine, with a fragile spring sun, the nor'easter's scars softening, shattered docks rebuilt with fresh timber. The Seaside Market buzzing anew under a sky washed clean. Lily Harper, now 7, stood on her dad's pier overlooking the harbor, her auburn braids tied with a blue ribbon, Blitz's color, her green eyes bright as she tossed a stick into the shallows. Blitz bounded after it, his German shepherd frame lean but strong, his shoulder scarred from a truck's graze 3 weeks back, his black and tan coat thick with Claire's care. His amber eyes gleamed, tail wagging like a metronome, a hero reborn on the edge of the sea. Tom Harper leaned against a piling, nets drying beside him, his fisherman's hands still as he watched. A rare smile tugging his salt-cracked lips. Claire stitched a patient's chart at the clinic down the hill, her therapy wing humming with Blitz's gentle work, kids whispering secrets to him. Vets finding peace in his calm. The gray shingle cottage glowed on the bluff, Lily's drawings now framed beside family photos, Blitz's bed a throne by the hearth, a blue ribbon pinned above it. The fight for Blitz had climaxed in March, a courthouse showdown that packed the hall to the rafters. Carl Voss's claim, fake papers and a breeder's bid, crumbled when Dana's raid hit his kennel up the coast, dogs freed from bloodied cages. Evidence damning, fight rings, forged lineage, Blitz targeted for profit over his police bloodline. Lily sat beside Blitz in court, his bandages fresh from saving her, Tom and Claire armed with files stacked high, vet logs. Ryan's logs, Lily's timeline. Witnesses flooded in, Ryan Callahan, gray and broken, voice cracking, "He's no killer, he's my pride, my failure," Mrs. Doyle with Lily's crayon maps. Tears streaking her cheeks, Jenny Pierce, 13, the Pinewood girl, sobbing into a mic, "He pulled me from fire, truth got buried under smoke." Judge Nora Hale, stern but fair, leaned forward, her gavel poised. Custody to the Harpers, Blitz stays. Voss barred for life, criminal charges pending. Cheers erupted, shaking the oak benches, Lily hugging Blitz's neck. Tears soaking his fur as he nosed her cheek. "You're home forever," she whispered. Eddie slumped, handcuffed. Carl glared, his empire ash. Blitz's past fueled his future, 52 rescues etched in Rockhaven's memory. His medal restored by the governor's office, Pinewoods lie undone by Jenny's dad's video, Blitz shielding her, not attacking, frame by frame proving his heart. Carl's ring collapsed, kennels seized. Dogs rehomed, Eddie jailed for abuse, Carl facing a grand jury. Rockhaven healed, blue ribbons stayed pinned to market stalls, a fund blooming to aid rescue dogs, Mr. Ellis grinning over his apples. Our shield's back, better'n ever. Lily led Blitz's new gig, therapy at Claire's clinic, where mute kids spoke first words beside him, vets with shaking hands found steady ground in his gaze. He knows hurt, Lily told a boy, signing to Blitz, who nuzzled soft, his tail a slow metronome. Schools launched reading with Blitz, the market crowned him mascot, Mrs. Kane baking bone-shaped loaves for his court win party. The truck incident had sealed it, 3 weeks back, a delivery rig backing blind near the pier, its horn dead, tires crunching gravel. Lily, practicing her court speech with Claire. Bent to tie her shoe, oblivious. Blitz's ears pinned, his body tensing, he lunged, shoving her clear, taking the mirror's hit on his shoulder. He'd tumbled, still, until Lily's scream, "Blitz!" brought Tom running. Vet surgery followed, cracked ribs, bruised lungs, but he'd live, Dr. Lee marveling, he turned to take it, pure instinct. News hit, Ex-K9 saves girl again, footage viral. Rockhaven weeping proud. Lily slept by his kennel, reading tales of brave dogs, his tail thumping weak but sure. At a bluff party, Blitz's gotcha day, spring sun warmed the crowd, Dana. Ryan, market folk, kids with blue ribbons. Lily stood on a crate, voice clear. He's brave 'cause he loves, even when he's scared. Heroes don't quit, they heal us. Blitz nudged her. Tail thumping, and Rockhaven clapped, tears flowing, vendors, fishermen, Jenny hugging Lily tight. From outcast to guardian, Blitz had rewoven their town, Lily his spark, love his law. A dawn breaking over the storm. Lesson from the story. Heroes don't break, they bend, and they rise. Lily, a 6-year-old Spitfire, and Blitz, a battered K9, stared down fear and lies in Rockhaven. Proving courage isn't loud, it's the quiet choice to stand up, to love hard, even when the world's turned its back. Blitz's scars didn't define him, they fueled him, and Lily's heart showed a town that redemption's real when you fight for it. Eddie and Carl's greed crashed against a kid's grit and a dog's loyalty, proof that truth wins when good folks dig in. It's not about what you've lost, it's who you save, and Rockhaven learned that heroes howl loudest when they've got a pack behind them. What's your Blitz story? Ever fought for someone, or something, everyone else gave up on? Spill it below, your battle, your hero, your win against the odds. Smash that like if Lily's guts or Blitz's heart lit you up. And share this saga with your crew, let's rally the brave. Where you watching from, East Coast, Heartland, or beyond? Sound off, we're a harbor town now, and we want to hear your roar.